Hi there, and welcome to another one of my classic reviews where I pick one of my all-time favourite movies, give it a rewatch and then come review it. In this video I'm going to be talking about the classic zombie film Day of the Dead, which I thought would be a great film to review as we're approaching Halloween. So, Day of the Dead is written and directed by Romero, who is the godfather of zombie movies and the greatest zombie director that there's ever been, and one of the greatest horror directors that there's ever been. Romero, in my opinion, made many great horror films, and his Living Dead series is just the pinnacle of zombies, no question. What I really like about him as a director is that he didn't just do zombie films. He always did pointed, meaningful metaphors in his zombie films. His whole series of zombie films is all about different things. The very first film, The Night of the Living Dead, is all about Cold War paranoia, it's got a bit of racial tension in there, it's got other topics within it. His sequel, Dawn of the Dead, is a satire on consumerism. His later films were all metaphorical too. Land of the Dead was about capitalism and terrorism, Diary of the Dead was about the responsibility of the media, and Survival of the Dead was about human tribalism. And Day of the Dead from 1985, the third film in this series of 6, is one of the most meaningful in the series. It's about two things, essentially. It's about militarism and it's about science. And it's about how both of those can be misused, and it's about the human consequences of those things. As always in Romero movies, the real enemy is not the zombies, it's the people. It's the people who are trapped together and how their own conflict and their own tribalism ultimately ruins them. So, rather typically for a Romero zombie film, Day of the Dead is about a bunch of people in a safe haven. It's about a bunch of scientists and a bunch of soldiers who are in an underground base working together. But naturally there's tensions between them, and the two groups have very different views on how things should be run. The military want to destroy everything and the scientists want to discover anything, and we see critiques of both of these aspects throughout the film, as well as a broader critique of uncooperative tribalism and people who can't get on, and the way that mankind is doomed if we can never cooperate. The critique of science here is interesting. It looks at a lot of ethics and scientific malpractice. There's a whole ethical strand here to do with the living dead, who are shown in this film to be more intelligent. They can do basic things, they can be trained and domesticated. And similar to how we ourselves are trained as children to learn things, the zombies can be trained to learn things and learn social things as well. And so the question then becomes, how ethical is it to do this? How ethical is it to train zombies and subsequently to perform surgeries on them, to perform all sorts of horrific surgery? And I have to say, some of the zombie gore in the surgery is like top tier gore, really nasty stuff, and beautifully nasty stuff, I should say. Like, it's stomach churning, but it's fantastically done. And this all leads into the ethical questions of science. It also leads into the lack of morality that scientists can have. They can get detached, they can become impractical, they want to find theory, they want to discover why the zombies are like they are. They don't really care about actually helping the situation, they just want to discover and learn more. And that's kind of the problem with science. You can always learn more, but when do you stop? When do you go, well, now I've learned what I need to learn? There's also a potential parallel between animal rights issues and the zombies here, and considering the experimentation that goes on, but I think that's kind of a lesser strand. There's other progressive aspects to the film. One of the main characters is black, which is something that you don't tend to see in horror films from the era, and in fact Romero had a black lead hero in all 3 of his original trilogy. But more importantly, the film touches on masculinity, and it touches on sexism, and it touches on the way that men are, and particularly in a militaristic setting. So the men in this film are all kind of macho and aggressive, and all they really care about is being badass and shooting things, and they aren't really so bothered about spending time helping the scientists and actually working together. There's a lot of testosterone-fueled conflict in Day of the Dead, and we see how the masculinity here is quite toxic. There's one character who feels particularly emasculated in face of all the stress of the world around him, with, you know, obviously there being a zombie apocalypse. It's going to get stressful, but if you let your guard down and appear weak, you're seen as a lesser man, and that's something that the military and just masculinity in general provides. And then there's also the fact that the lead character is a woman and she has to put up with all these lewd comments throughout the film and things like this. It's certainly a film which touches on a lot of progressive issues, which is something that you often don't see in these classic horror films, and which is something that I think is actually quite well done in the film. The film also is just broader. It's about just survival, it's about history, it's about maybe we should give up our civilization. There's a talk here of maybe we should just bury history, maybe we should ignore history, maybe we should just leave, maybe we should just be selfish and just go and live somewhere else and raise a new civilization without ever mentioning the mistakes of the old one, move on. And as always in these sort of type of zombie films, it's the people that ultimately are responsible for the zombies getting in and killing people. The zombies here are fantastically done, the makeup and the effects are fantastic in Day of the Dead, and the budget is higher than some of Romero's other films, and as a result you really get a really good horror film within this. It's really scary, and at the same time it's a film which is fantastic, and it has zombies eating people in grisly ways, and it's bloody and gleefully nasty and gory throughout it. It's also really substantial. It has all these ideas about various things in it, about science, animal rights, masculinity. It touches on these topics. It talks about the fate of mankind. It talks about how mankind's own destruction is created by mankind. It won't be from an outside force. If mankind were to cooperate and were to truly work together, we would actually achieve so much. But the only reason why something like a zombie apocalypse can kill us off is because we refuse to work together, and because we are terrible to each other, and because tribalism does exist, and because people are ultimately kind of deserving of their fate. And so whilst Day of the Dead is certainly bleak and certainly hopeless, it kind of draws on this idea that, well, this is the sort of thing mankind would do. Mankind would of course fucking die in a zombie apocalypse because we're all idiots who would just be dicks to each other until we all get killed. And that's kind of a happy, depressing place to end a zombie film on. And this is exactly why Romero is the legend he is in horror cinema, because he's someone who went, yeah, you know what, like, the world sucks and I'm going to tell you why it sucks, and you're going to enjoy it because you're going to have some awesome zombie action. That's why he's just one of the most consistent horror directors of his era, and Day of the Dead is one of his masterpieces. It's one of his best films, and it's a film that I think is really, really great, and I really love it. And I know that some people don't like it because certainly it is a bit B-movie at times, but you know, it works, and it works really well, and I think that it's just a horror classic. And that's what I think, and I'd love to hear your thoughts if you've seen it, so please leave me a comment. If you like this review, please give it a like. If you want to hear more of my reviews, you can subscribe. If you want to read more of my reviews, you can follow me on Letterboxd or Twitter, links in the description. And thank you for watching.